Okay, turn 84. Looking at the messages, we got a snail shaman got hit by an arrow in the heart and died instantly. It happens. We hit evocation level 7. We're working on conjuration level 9. A disease demon attacked a scout and murdered him. There was a battle in Sofekti, which I fucked up. So, first of all, let me say, this battle is an excellent example of me screwing up and not achieving what I should have. And the reason there is simple. I gave all these guys slave matrices, and I didn't give this guy a communion matrix. For some reason. Somehow. If I'd given him a communion matrix, he could have used those communion slaves, and it would have boosted him up to Astral, like, 9 or 10 base? 9. It would have boosted him up to Astral 9 base. Plus, then he would have cast, you know, but with the Light of the Northern Star, and then he would have cast Power of the Spheres, been Astral 10. His fatigue would have been a lot lower. He could have accomplished more things. However, he did still get the combo off. So he still cast Time Stop, Power of the Spheres, making him Astral 8, and Master and Slave. And the Master and Slave went off just before the time stop ended. However, that put him to 200 fatigue and did a bunch of damage. So, Master and Slave activated. None of these mindless troops were hit by it. But everyone else was, including these Logrian warriors who were back guarding the mages. So, as a result, a bunch of the Logrian warriors murdered a whole bunch of mages very quickly. They also distracted a whole lot of the enemy units, but because all these guys were basically, because I fucked that up and Tabrock was now fatigued out, and routing also, I didn't get Vortex of Returning off. So, and actually it should have been Riego that cast Vortex of Returning, so I don't know why he didn't, to be honest. Because he's there, he's not routing or asleep. He should just be casting Vortex of Returning right now. He's preparing to cast Will of the Fates, and it was too late, so my timing was off. Yeah, and so all of my Soul Twisters got killed. In the process of dying, however, they cost the enemy a huge amount. In Sofekti, you can see this battle here. So I lost my 8 Soul Twisters, which is a big blow to me. 1,600 gold, and their cap-only recruit, I only have so many. I killed in the process 9 Daughters of Avalon, which are cheap and easy to replace. 5 Mothers of Avalon, which are more expensive and less easy to replace. 4 monks, a Lord Warden, and about 90 units all told. Overall, probably worth it. Killing 14 mages in exchange for 8 mages, plus a couple of other commanders, including a capital-only Sacred commander. Like, I'll take it. I'll take it. It's too bad that I didn't get either of the Crones. And I also wiped out many of the units, not the living statues. The living statues are the most important remaining force of this army. And a bunch of these Logran warriors just retreated, so he doesn't actually have many troops left. Lots of other battles. We were attacked in High Mill and destroyed the enemy. Lots and lots of battles that I'm not really going to go into. Overall, we pushed back against the raiders, reclaimed a whole bunch of our territory. Some of our forts are currently under siege, but that's okay. We're doing it again. We're teleporting in Bugsy Seagull plus Gabrusius, and both of them are scripted to be casting Vortex of Returning as quickly as they can. In fact, I'm actually going to cancel Will of the Fates. I'm just going to Vortex of Returning. So Body of Ethereal, Vortex of Returning. Bugsy Seagull is scripted to Vortex of Returning immediately after the Master and Slave. Since he doesn't have a Banner of the Northern Star on the field, he will be unconscious after Master Enslaving, so it'll take a little bit to warm up to the Vortex of Returning. But he has high prot, 28 prot, high hit points, and is ethereal, so he shouldn't be in too bad danger, especially because after the Master and Slave goes off, the enemy will be very distracted. Now, the living statues may still will come and attack him, but they don't have magical weapons, and they shouldn't really be able to hurt him much. The Knights of Man, the Trolls, the regular Knights, all of those units can be easily Master Enslaved, and then once we hit Vortex of Returning, we'll all teleport away. So that'll be great. Over here, this army, as I said, mostly destroyed. Most of the mages are dead. We'll hit this army to steal it away. There's another very, very large army of mostly chaff here that we can hit if it attacks us, and there's a very large army of mostly chaff down here that we can hit. He's got a lot of Vine Ogres, which are not, of course, mind controllable, but the Logrian warriors are. And basically what we're going to teach this guy is you cannot approach me with mind controllable units. I will mind control them. I've still got a bunch of Soul Twisters here. A few more scattered around in different places. These guys can just research. And I will absolutely use them. Even though my astral income is no longer obscene, it's still pretty high. And I can do that once a turn, basically. I can pretty much teleport, Master, and Slave something every single turn. I'm forging a Banner of the North Star to make it easier. since I lost mine there. And yeah, beyond that, mostly the same stuff going on. We've got a pretty significant little communion force gathered here, which we will just move into this fort in Gold Mountains. Actually, no, we're gonna pull these guys south again. We need to start moving towards stopping that army. But I think I can break his armies as they come in. He's not super well coordinated. He's not attacking me on both fronts simultaneously quite. He's one turn off. So I think I can do that. We did lose that fight, unfortunately, but it's not too bad. And I think we'll be able to push through this pretty effectively. So, thanks for watching. I'll see y'all in turn 85. Okay, folks. It is turn 85, and this is going to be the end of the game. We've been talking about it amongst the players, and overall, the appetite to continue this game has waned, particularly in me and Haerdalas, but also to some extent in some of the other players. Drangleic, for example, when asked about it, was just like, I mean, I'll keep playing if the game keeps going on, but it's not like I can really do much, which is fair. He hasn't been able to do much for a long time, actually. Man kind of wanted to continue, and Satis was very much like, whatever, doesn't really matter to me, at least as far as I could tell. Man kind of wanted to continue. Satis kind of wanted to continue-ish, but overall, I think we're all pretty much okay with just calling the game a draw. We've definitely accomplished what Haerdalas wanted to do, which is test that his mods were pretty well balanced. And to be honest, I would say they are. The fact that Man and Satis are two of the nations that are really, really competitive this late in the game is an excellent sign. Now, of course, it could just be that us playing the mod nations were bad players, and certainly I think I could have played Hallownest better. But overall, I think the mods did a really good job. So, congratulations to Haerdalas. Great job on the mods, dude. They're a lot of fun. I will have a post-game kind of analysis thing of Hallownest, where I talk about, like, what I think about the nation in more detail, having finished the game with them. I've given different people bits and pieces of my thoughts, but I'll try to kind of collate it in a more formal, more useful way. In any case, I've just alchemized all of my gems, and I'm casting the Eyes of God as hard as I can in an effort to overwrite one of these global enchantments, just so I can get to see the graphs. So we're gonna run one more turn, and hopefully I'll be able to see the graphs. The only real fun thing that happened this turn, I got hit by a disease demon that killed a soul twister. Lots of unrest, but I did attack Ironwood Forest with a teleport, Master and Slave, and Vortex of Returning attack. Obviously, they had a bunch of mindless living statues and stuff. I didn't manage to get the mages because their troops were set to attack as quickly as possible. Did get the time stop off, which, as you can see, slows them down a lot. I think it's like a 5-to-1 or 4-to-1 ratio. Through the Master and Slave, everybody started attacking themselves, and then we Vortex of Returning out and took about a fifth of the army with us, just from one Master and Slave, which is not bad. We stole around 20 units, 3 Knights of Avalon, 3 Standard Knights, 1 Heavy Cavalry, 9 Knights of Man, a Logrian Warrior, a Lord Warden, one of their commanders, a Troll and a War Troll. We didn't manage to kill any of the mages because, as I said, his troops were scripted to just charge as quickly as possible, which is the appropriate counter. Good on him. We got a couple other Knights of Avalon and Knights of Man killed. The Knights of Man are pretty decent. The Knights of Avalon are really, really good. We also killed a couple of Logrian warriors and some of the province defense units. But so it wasn't by any means a crippling strike against this army, but it did just steal a whole bunch of high-quality units and give them to me, which is nice. We lost, actually, at the Fortress of the Sea of Woe. I underestimated the sheer quantity of water elementals that they could shit out with Bathuzma. Also, I didn't realize they had another Sea King in here, so they did have Mashdaglu, the Sea King, as well as Bathuzma. Bathuzma already had a bunch of size 4 water elementals. And we summoned water power, and they started churning out the elementals. Bathuzma also had the Trident from Beyond, which is an artifact, actually, and gives you water magic +1. So the Trident from Beyond, the water bracelet, Bathuzma's pretty rad-tastical. And then Mashdaglu also had a water bracelet on. So they started casting the hell out of some living water, and they out-living watered me. I did get off the Will of the Fates, I believe. But, yes, I got off the Will of the Fates, but I forgot that luck doesn't actually apply to water elementals because they're mindless. So, I had these lucky folks up here, but unfortunately they couldn't really deal enough damage quickly enough to chop their way through water elemental regeneration, underwater, and sea troll regeneration. So they just sort of stood there chaffing for a while until they got beaten and ran away. And then when they started to run away, you know, the battle turned against me because of numbers of water elementals, as such battles do. So, c'est la vie, c'est la guerre. My Sea Kings got 23 kills, but I lost the army, didn't cause a whole lot of damage. That's okay. Overall, we're doing... I could definitely keep playing here, definitely make a go of it. Probably, I still think I could take man on pretty effectively. But it's just not worth the time, to be honest. It's been a great game. I appreciate everyone for playing. I appreciate Haerdalas for making these mods and for inviting me to join the game. Thank you so much, dude. Like I said, I'll get that video out where I talk about the nation in a lot of detail. I really like, honestly, Hallownest. I mean, it's not a communion nation. It's an astral nation, but not a communion nation, which I think is is fascinating. I mean, there's not a lot of native nations that do that. In fact, the only one I can really think of is the various eras of Relay, and Relay is still a communion nation. It's just also a high astral nation. So it's an interesting kind of juxtaposition, if that makes sense. In any case, thank you all so much for watching this series. I know it's gone on for a long time, and you know, I'm just not a fan of these huge long games, to be honest. Like, when you hit turn 80, I'm like, man, this game has got to end. We got to do something about this. So yeah, we're just gonna call it quits here, in order so that everybody can kind of move on to things that are a little bit more fun at this point, haven't been beaten to death. But thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all for the wrap up of this series, and then for the next series to come. Okay, folks, so the final look before we end the game here. You can see on the last turn, man decided to elf me a little bit harder, which is, yeah, okay, that's fine. You know what? If you wanna do that, that's okay. No worries. I think the decision was made pretty late in the turn, so probably he just didn't bother to cancel any of these orders. So I did lose a number of provinces here, technically. Wow, 56 enemy units besieging Hallownest. That is a ballsy move. If I had taken any actions, that would have gotten crushed. So yeah, he's elfed a whole bunch of provinces, but since I successfully cast the Eyes of God, we can now look upon the score graphs. So first of all, provinces. At my height, you can see here, I had a lot more provinces than man actually did, which actually I didn't quite realize. I hadn't gone through and done the count. You can see here where man started elfing me with his rating and all that stuff. So one turn, bounced way up, back down, bounced back up because I wasn't making any more counter moves there. I could have definitely counter-measured this, but like I said, wasn't really doing much those last couple of turns. Forts. Man and I actually had exactly the same number of forts in terms of income. My income was somewhat higher, equivalent to that of Lothric. And in terms of provinces, I actually had a lot more provinces than Lothric did as well. This, I believe, is the climb when I started to take over Anor Londo. In terms of research, Lothric had significantly more research than me. I and Man had very similar amounts of research, and it looks like Satis had actually completed all the research. I think that's what that means. Because I have 4 level 9s, yeah, I think Satis had actually hit the end of the research tree and stopped researching entirely 3 or 4 turns ago. In terms of gem income, also this might be interesting. Lothric had... I had more gem income than Lothric most of the time. He had a spike right there that then went immediately back down. Spike there. I think that is when he cast Well of Misery. And then, of course, this line does not account for Arcane Nexus. So my gem income was significantly above Lothric's pretty much all the time. My gem income may have been competitive with Satis. Probably a little bit lower, even counting the Arcane Nexus, but sometimes spiking above. That right there is where he cast Maelstrom. Gem gens are a big fucking deal. Like, really. They're a big deal. And then in terms of Dominion, of course, Satis' Dominion was way the hell above everybody else's in terms of army size. Man actually had an extremely large army because he'd been building up a lot of chaff to invade me. which then dipped very slightly there, but overall. And then in terms of ascension points, of course, Satis was head and shoulders above everybody else. So that is the final look at the game. Satis's lead actually started pretty early. We can see here their expansion, in terms of expansion, they were kind of on the upper end of the expansion curve, and then they really took off pretty early in the game and never really came back down. That right there, I think, is where the war with Anor Londo really kicked off in earnest, but then they rebounded, and they were doing quite well. It looks like they were doing better than I thought they were, even, compared to Anor Londo. In terms of income, of course, a big part of that is just in terms of income and gems. They had separated out from the pack as far back as this is probably like turn 20. This might actually be more like turn 30, but they separated out from the pack pretty early. I was second in terms of gems for much of the game, especially because, as I said, this doesn't account for Arcane Nexus, so at like this point or so, my gem income went boop. But before that even, I was very competitive. I was definitively second, but the gap was still enormous. So very, very well played to Shanji of Satis. If I was going to declare a winner to this game, I think it would be him. He outplayed everybody, really, and the only reason he was still being held back from winning the game was because he'd been being constantly battered for much of the game, long before the end. Because, like, his war, I mean, he'd been fighting that war with Anor Londo for 20, 25 turns, something like that. And he was not Anor Londo, I'm sorry, Lothric. And he was still doing fine. Anor Londo held on pretty well. Their research was very, very lacking compared to the rest of us, but partially I think that was just due to the fact that they were quite small. And you can see here, this is where they start to just really lose provinces. And then I come in to take them out, and they just, boom, the end is nigh. Just because they hadn't really been able to grow much since the beginning of the game. In terms of provinces, they had expanded pretty well, and then they kind of hit a roadblock, which was their terrain had a lot to do with it. And they didn't really get a whole lot bigger after that. Whereas I, for example, expanded, kind of dipped slightly, flatlined, got up. This is when I was taking over Orem. Expanded, stayed fairly steady for a while, dipped, expanded, as I was taking over Anor Londo, and then comes the elfing period where this war had been starting. Like I said, that looks a lot more dramatic than it would have been in practice if I had been fighting that war actively. I think I could have pretty much turned this around. Like, this rebound, I think I could have made continue, or at least flatline, and prevent that from going up, if I had been actively counter-moving the elf attacks. But by that point, my motivation to play the game had just gone. It had just gone on too long. Funnily enough, Man, Lothric, and I were all at exactly the same number of forts by the end of the game. And Satis was at little over double that. So, just out of curiosity, how many forts do I actually own right now? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Never had that one. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Right now I have 13 forts. I think I've counted that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yes, I have 13 forts. So yeah, Satis had like 30 forts. Something like that. And Lothric has 13 forts. And Man also has 13 forts after absorbing Ulm. So, a very good game to everybody. Thank you all so much for playing once again. I'm going to post those graphs in the Discord so everybody can look at them. And I will see you all in the next game. Thank you for sticking with me through this very long Dominions 5 adventure. Take care until next time.